Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So today we are going to be reviewing a grammar topic that we covered briefly in Spanish 2 and going a lot more in depth with some new information and new uses of that grammar topic. And our grammar topic is reflexives or reflexive verbs. So the first thing we are going to look at, so you can identify reflexive verbs in their infinitive form quite easily. So the big thing you were going to look for is that they are going to end in se. So some common examples that we used in Spanish 1, like maquillarse is like to apply makeup to oneself. Or if I say despertarse, it's to wake up, wake oneself up. So in Spanish 1, in Spanish 2, we used reflexive verbs to illustrate something that we did to ourselves. And that's how we are going to review this concept and kind of get a foundation. And then we're going to augment it and we're going to play with it a little bit to say more complex sentences. So in Spanish 2, so it doesn't hurt to write this stuff down. If I'm writing it down, you know it's important enough for you to write down. So in Spanish 2, we use reflexives to illustrate doing an action to oneself. So i.e., example, to put on makeup, or to wake up. Those are things we typically do to ourselves. So to form a reflexive verb, the first thing that you have to form the correct conjugation. And to do that, so step 1, you take the se off the end. And move it to the front. Step 2 will be to change the se to the correct reflexive pronoun. And then step 3 is going to be to conjugate the ending into the correct tense. So generally, oh, you couldn't even see that. There you go. So generally the tense that we're going to use for our reflexive practice in this class, at least until we're really comfortable with it, is just the typical present tense. So what we're going to do now, we're going to write down these reflexive pronouns that I mentioned in step 1. Our reflexive pronouns, they are going to correspond to those typical conjugation charts that we write down. So there are 6 reflexive pronouns. Or I guess technically 5, but there's 6 boxes. So we have me, te, se, nos, os, and then we have se again. So these are very important, and they technically show who receives the action. So if I wanted to say, I put makeup on myself because I'm receiving the action, I'd say me maquillo. Me maquillo. I put makeup on myself. Okay. So we're going to do some examples with this. And this is going to be the doing actions to yourself, or doing actions to oneself. And one verb that we use for this, that you guys have been using since like day 1 of Spanish 1, is the verb llamarse. So as a reflexive, it means to call, or to call oneself. So if I say me llamo, while yes, it does mean like my name is, the more literal translation is I call myself. If I said te llamas, this would be you call yourself. And another one, if I said nos llamamos, this would be we call ourselves. So you notice here, the present tense conjugation is in the same form as the reflexive pronoun. So if I wanted to say, let's do the ella form for despertarse. So I would use the steps that I wrote down on the previous page. So step 1 is to take the se off of the end and move it to the front. So I'm going to write these out step by step. So step 1 would be se despertar. Step 2 asked me to make sure that the reflexive pronoun was correct. And for this situation, we actually are going to stay with se. And then step 3, our final step, it asked us to conjugate the ending of the verb to fit the subject. This was kind of a bad example because despertar is actually a stem changing verb. So I have to include a stem change as well. But se despierta. So this would be she wakes up. She wakes herself up. Now, if we wanted to do a separate example, let's imagine I wanted to say vosotros, so you all in Spain. We can stick with this example, despertarse. So step 1, we'd move the se to the front. Se despertar. Step 2, we have to change the se to fit our subject. So the reflexive pronoun that goes with vosotros is os. Despertar. And then our third and final step is to conjugate the AR ending for our subject. So it'll be os despertáis. So this is you all get up. You all wake up. So your first activity, I think it says mi rutina. You are going to use these notes to do mi rutina or la rutina diaria, my daily routine. So if I wanted to give you examples of my daily routine, I could write this: me despierto a las 5 de la mañana. I wake up at 5. The joys of having a baby. Then I could say me levanto mucho. Durante de la noche. I wake up a lot at night also, or not wake up, I get out of bed a lot at night. Joys of a baby, like I said. And then I could say me ducho a las 6. I shower at 6. Me cepillo los dientes. Y me lavo la cara. I wash my face. So right now, because I don't really have anywhere to go, I come to school, but you guys aren't here. So I would say, no me maquillo. I don't put on makeup. So if you're saying a negative sentence, if you're saying that you don't do something, you put the no in front of both the reflexive pronoun and the verb. So your mi rutina activity, you've got a video that you're going to watch, and she's going to be using reflexive pronouns like this as she's getting ready. And you guys are just going to translate some of the sentences from that video. And then you're going to write about your own daily routine using this structure. Your reflexive pronoun is going to match the conjugation. If one is in the yo form, the other is in the yo form. So if you would, you can pause the video and do that. Or if you want to keep taken notes on the second half, we can go ahead and do that as well. So we're going to look at this, and this is actually the more common way to use reflexive pronouns. So we can use reflexive verbs and reflexive pronouns to indicate an action being done to someone else. So when this happens, when we intend to do this a little bit differently and say that someone is doing something to another person, the only difference is that our reflexive pronoun and our conjugation are going to be different. So the reflexive pronoun is going to show who receives the action. And the verb conjugation is going to show who does the action. So I'm going to write out our reflexive pronouns again. And what we're going to do, I want to use the verb llamarse to illustrate this point. I think it illustrates it beautifully. So if we conjugate llamar into the present tense, has to be one of these forms. Llamamos. Messed up a little bit. Llamáis. Llaman. Okay. So remember, who receives? Who does it? So in Spanish 1, a lot of people, instead of saying me llamo, they'll say me llama, which doesn't mean my name is or I call myself. So first we have to see who is doing the action. Because it ends in an A, we know that's in the él or ella form. So that would be he or she calls, and this is who receives it, me. He or she calls me something. If I said te llamo, so the first thing we have to look at is who is completing this action because it ends in an O. Because it ends in an O, we know that it is I. It's in the yo form. So it's I call, and we look at our reflexive pronoun te. It's in the to form. So it would be I call you. And the verb llamarse can be used for like telephone, like I call you, or it can even be meaning like a nickname. It's like if your name is Theodore, but I call you Teddy, I'd say te llamo Teddy. And then let's do one more. If I said, os llamamos. Based on the conjugation, we know this is in the nosotros form. So this would be we call. And then os, vosotros. So vosotros is receiving the action. So it would be we call you all. And that would be in Spain. And something else that you can do when you're doing this is that you can basically take normal verbs and you can make them reflexive. So like the verb cortar is to cut. So if I was saying corto el papel, I cut the paper. But if I wanted to make this a reflexive verb, it gets a little dramatic right here. So it would be to cut somebody or to cut oneself. If I said te cortó con un cuchillo. We're up in the prison yard. What a horrible example. I'm sorry. This would be I cut you with a knife. So you see how the meaning of the verb to cut gets altered based on adding in that reflexive pronoun. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to print out your assignment for the week that covers this. And I want us to do some examples together because this is new and it's different. So your paper has 2 examples from each section already included. But if you're watching the video like a good noodle, you're going to get, you know, half of this paper done for you. So here's your assignment for the week. One of the assignments for the week, rather. So your directions, you know, they say, based on the reflexive pronouns and the conjugation of the verb, fill in the blanks of the sentences you read. So in this first column, you have your Spanish sentences. Second column, who does the action? You are going to look at how the verb is conjugated. So I'm going to circle those just to, you know, drive that point home. And then who receives the action, I'm going to underline. So our first one, me ducho a las 6 de la mañana. Who's completing this action? Based on the ending of this verb, we know it is yo. Who receives the action? Because me correlates with yo, we know I do the action to myself. So I shower myself, or I shower at 6 in the morning. Okay. Number 2, se baño cuando el perro está sucio. It's kind of a weird sentence. So who does the action? We look at our verb. Baño ends with an O, so that will be the yo form. And then who receives the action? See, it's se. That is our pronoun. So we know, I'm gonna move this around. This could go with either él or ella. And if we read the rest of the sentence, we find out that it is I bathe it when the dog gets dirty. Or when the dog gets dirty, I bathe it. So the dog is the object that gets bathed. So let's look at number 3. Te cepillas los dientes después del desayuno. So first off, based on the conjugation of cepillas, who is doing the action? So if we think back, AS is the to form. And then who receives the action? Look at our reflexive pronoun, te. From this chart, te is in the same place as to. So you do that action to yourself. So this would be you brush your teeth after breakfast. And then I want to look down at number 6, and we'll do number 7 as well. So number 6, te llamamos nuestro mejor amigo. So based on the conjugation of llamamos, who is doing the action? Well, that is in the nosotros form. So we are doing the action. And who receives the action? That is te, which is in the to form. So the translation of this, we've already established we do the action. It says we call you nuestro mejor amigo, our best friend. And then we have la peluquera me seca el pelo. We have our verb. So secar is to dry. To dry. So in this sentence, who is doing the drying? La peluquera, the hairdresser. And then who receives the action? Yo. This would be she dries my hair, or the hairdresser dries my hair. Excellent. So section 2, giving you like a little word bank up here in case you forgot some of these. So write out the following phrases using the verbs provided. Some translations will be from Spanish to English. So the darker highlighted, think on the computer, these are pink. They're in Spanish, you put them in English. And then the others, the lighter highlighted, are in English and you write the Spanish, 21 through 30. So we'll do 2 more from each section. Let's 3 more. What the heck? So we have nos llaman. The first thing we do is determine who does the action. With an AN ending, we know that's either ellos or ustedes. So it would be either they or y'all. Call, and the recipient of the action is the pronoun. So they call us, or you all call us. 14, me visto. That's going to use the verb to dress, vestirse. So me visto would be I dress myself. And number 15, te vestimos. So we look at vestimos. It's in the nosotros form. So this would be we dress. And then the recipient, te, is you. We dress you. And then we'll look at 23 through 25. So she bathes. It's going to use the verb bañarse. So first step, we take the se off and move it to the front and make sure that it matches our subject. And it does. And then we conjugate the verb bañar into the ella form. Se baña. Okay. 24, you apply your makeup. This is going to have the same subject for the reflexive pronoun and for the conjugation. So we know our subject is tú, te, maquillas. So see that? Those two match because we're talking about one person doing something to themselves. But we are going to change it for 25. So 25 says, you apply our makeup. You is still the subject. It is who's completing the action. But the thing that is different is our. We have to look at the reflexive pronoun that would indicate that they are doing something to us or we. So we're going to use nos. Tú nos maquillas. There you go. Those are our notes. If you have any trouble at all, please message me on Remind 101. Email me. Attend our Zoom meetings. Very few of you have been taking advantage of those. I'm here to help. You guys just have to let me know what you're struggling with so I can help you. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.